Good evening. A very warm welcome to all of you in our audience today. I'm your host, Preeti Gupta, for this session. So let's tune in and steer off any distractions to fully enjoy this great conversation. I first call upon our speaker for today, the great Olympian, Mr. Sanjeeva Singh.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Sanjeeva. It's so glad that you have made time to come here. I take pride in introducing our speaker for today, Sanjeeva Singh. Sanjeeva has an inherent passion for excellence and learning. He has many firsts to his credit. He is the only recipient of NCRT and NTSC scholarships, a double gold medalist in sports and studies, national champion, gold medalist from BIT Mesra, and XLRI alumnus. And currently, he is pursuing a postgraduate certificate in sports management from the University of London. He is the only recipient of the prestigious Arjuna Award and Dronacharya Award in archery. He is the first in setting up a corporate sponsored Tata Archery Academy, the first to start compound archery in India. We'll hear more about what is compound archery from Sanjeeva during the conversation. And presently, he is in the process of setting up the first high performance center in archery in Sonipat. He has won over 44 medals at national, 18 medals at international level. He has coached and mentored the Indian archery team, which has won over 100 medals. He has received numerous corporate recognitions in his stint with the Tatas, and currently he is the High Performance Director with Sports Authority of India. To top it all, he is preparing the national team for the Paris Olympics. It is our absolute pleasure to have you here with us, Sanjeev.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, thank you. Next, I would like to invite the very talented Dr. Shivdasini Singh Amin, who will moderate and craft the conversation with Sanjeeva. Shivdasini is an economics graduate with a PhD in educational leadership and administration and is presently with the Mahindra University, Hyderabad, as an associate professor. She loves to work with people and being a part of their development journey. Seeing them actualize their potential gives her immense satisfaction and joy. She is a mentor coach and currently the Director of Education and Training at Coaching and Leadership International, an accomplished master coach and MCC with over 4,500 hours of coaching to her credit. Over to you, Shivdasini. Please
Thank you,
carry on.
Preeti. Thank you, Preeti, and welcome, Sanjeeva. At the very outset,
Thank
let me
you.
congratulate you for the wonderful initiative and the job you have taken up for the country to spur Indian archers to shoot for gold. And let's straight away dive into the topic for the day, resilience and confidence. You have an illustrious career as a sportsman, an engineer, a senior management professional, and now as a coach. I invite you to share your story with us.
It all started in the early years when I was hardly 7 years old, when I was put in a boarding school at boys' school, Allahabad. And my father used to always tell that one has to be an all-rounder. And he always said that there are many toppers. At the same time, he said that there are many sportsmen, but very few sportsmen who are both good in studies and sports. So that was a dream, thought which was always there in our mind when he wrote letters to us. And by the time we graduated out, and then I got a chance to. I was in a school, got a chance to be there in the Asian Games. And Asian Games, I was a volunteer. I was posted in the archery field, and I was there able to see archery from very close distance. And I was really, when I saw the Japanese, Korean, Chinese shooting, I started learning from them. And the turning point was when we got a chance to go and witness the Asian Games inauguration. And when Maharaja Karni Singh came in with the flag, there was just one thought which came in mind: can I carry this flag one day? with that thought in mind, I started working back. I knew nothing, but whatever I learned from these Japanese, Korean, Chinese, observing them, I started got my important post, started working with them, and within a span of 4 years, went on to become the sub-junior national champion, the junior national champion, and thereafter the national games champion in 1985. And in 86, Asian Games, I carried the flags. That was the beauty. It took me 4 years. The dream was there, but there were a lot of challenges. The equipment was not in India. It was not available. I was able to get. There was no very top coaches, but then I had to travel from my BIT Mestra, where I was doing my entering on Saturday, Sunday, to Calcutta to learn from them. So there was a lot of, in the process, there was a lot of challenges which I faced. But at the end of the day, it really helped me when I was able to carry the flag. The other thing which happened was that while I went into the corporate and joined Tata Steel, one thing I always used to recall, in a jungle, there's a lion and a jackal. Both wake up at the same time in the morning, but one has to run faster than the other in order to survive. So therefore, as soon as the sun comes up, you better start running. So in today's competitive world, one has to be on the toes. One has to be continuously facing the challenges. One has to continuously see benchmark with what's best in the world and outbeat them. So that's very important. In 2004, I got a chance to go with the Indian team. I was the coach there, and we were there in the World Championship. And I saw for a very close distance compound archery. So when I came back when I thought that this was a wonderful game for the Indian archers and especially low-heighted archers. So I came back. When I started the compound archery, people were against everybody thought that I was trying to fool people, that I've not been able to do something in recurve. And now starting the first, when I started the compound, the corporate sponsored Tata Archery Academy. So that time I faced a lot of resistance because that time recurve was not popular. But in 4 years' time, we started winning medals. But when I started compound, the same thing happened. It was very, very tough. But then what happened was that when we started working on it, in a span of 4 years, our compound archers started winning medal. And it so happened that we were able to, in the next, become the world. And today, if you look at the current scenario, we are the world champions. We are the world number 1, world number 3 in compound and recurve. And so therefore, India has risen. So it was a dream, there was a challenge, but then we were able to face the obstacle. And today, India is doing very well in compound archery. Similarly, when we started para, there was a lot of difficulties because there was a risk taking because para was not very common. But then slowly, para archers started coming in, and we started now the para archery is also doing so well, and we are the world number 4. We have won medals in the first Olympic medal came in the Tokyo Olympics. So whether it was para, whether it was compound, whether it was recurve, there was resistance, there was challenge. Managing both studies and sports was difficult. But then it was that inborn desire that you need to do something different was always there. And that actually propelled you. And that's what is resilience. That once you have a dream, once you have an object, once you have a purpose in life, you are always there. And challenges will be there, but you will cross those hurdles, either pass through them or sail through them or overstep them. And finally, you become a winner.
So, kudos to you, Sanjeeva. And please share with us some of the incidents from your personal experience that help you build resilience.
See, I think so. The first and the foremost thing which comes in mind is, as a sports person, you need to start winning early. So what we say is catch them young. It's all about starting winning at an early stage. But the winning changes as they move from state to the national to the international. Because the expectations of the government, the expectations of the people of India, the expectations are very, very high. So it's weighing a lot on your shoulders. But what is important is, ultimately, when anybody reaches the Olympic, everybody is equal. The only person who actually differentiates between the winner and the loser is your mindset. It's the mental set, because finally, it's in the mind you win. So a person who is more resilient in the mind will be able to overcome those, and at the World Championship, at the Olympics, will be able to perform. So the difference is all in the mind. And that is what makes a winner.
Okay. Then what is it that needs to be internalized to manifest outside as a winner?
See, the biggest thing which is important is how are you concentrating on the focus? Today you talk about, so when we're competing at those stages, what is important is, are we focusing our mind on the execution, the process? So if we are able to focus on the process, execute the shot well, you'll be able to win. So the question is, whichever thing you are, ultimately the edge comes in when you are executing that particular job. It could be a menial job, or it could be a playing for the country, the Olympics. Are you able to execute it to perfection? And that can only come when you are process centric. That means your inward process rather than outward. So outward is there. There'll be challenges, faces, crowd, cheering, pressure, expectations. But are you able to, under those circumstances, able to ensure that you are able to focus your mind on that execution of the shot, which will ultimately hit the 10 and make you a winner?
What do you think, Sanjeeva, is the role of trust and faith? How do they become lubricants in the process of coaching?
Well, here I'm going to tell you a story of Eklav, take you to the mythology and talk to you about Eklav and Dronachar. When Dronachar was there, he was not supposed to teach other than the royal family. And Eklav was from the poor background. He made a statue and started practicing archery, and slowly people came to know that Eklav was a very good archer. When Dronachar was there in the forest and the dog was barking, he could seal his mouth and with the arrow, and therefore once he slept, when he got up, he was roaming around and then saw that Eklav had made a statue of his and was practicing archery. He asked, because he had to tell the royal this thing that, okay, I'm not teaching them. So he asked the Guru Dakshina from them. And he said, okay, I need to ask her. And therefore he asked for his thumb. So generally the royal family was very impressed that, okay, he's not training him and he's asking a thumb, and therefore how will he be able to shoot? But if you look at Guru Dakshina was so impressed by what he saw. He said, if this person can make a statue and shoot, that was the trust and faith he had in him. If I take away his thumb, he will still shoot. So an indirect message he gave to Eklav was that you shoot with the three fingers. And let me tell you, the entire world today shoots with the three fingers. Nobody uses the thumb. So that is the story of Eklav and Dronachar. What happened in mythology, the world is following today. So that is the trust you have in your coach. That is the trust you have, faith you have in the coach. And if you have a blind trust and faith in the coach will never let you down, and you will always prosper and learn and shine in life.
Oh, wow. What a wonderful insight that is for me today. So what is the anatomy of resilience, Sanjeeva?
See, I'd like to take you through a clipping here. And this is a story of Komlika. Komlika was participating in the World Cup. And when she was participating, she failed. The team miserably failed, and we lost in the World Cup finals. And therefore, we said to her that you need to make the change here and then. If you need to become more bold, you need to focus on your shot, and you need to perform. And Komlika thereafter had to participate in the Cadet World Championship. And I would like to show you the clipping when she was fighting against the Japanese archer. The final three shots were there. The Japanese archer shot a 10, 9, 9. And now the first arrow 10, Komlika shot a 10. The first arrow 9, Komlika shot a 9. The next arrow, Japanese archer shot a 9. And now Komlika had the pressure to shoot a 10. But if you see her posture in the YouTube or whenever you get a chance, you will see that she performed perfectly. She was poised. She was confident. Her focus was on the shot. And she shot the arrow into the 10 and became the Cadet World Champion. That is focus. That is concentration. That is confidence in yourself. So if you can see here, smiling, because you see the last arrow, if you can see the figures down, it was a 9 for the Japan and a 10 for the India. That is the poise. That is the confidence. If you have that confidence, that's what makes you a winner. So that is where your internal process, confidence in yourself, and you can see here, Komlika performing the last arrow, and she shoots perfectly, and it goes into a 10. That is the winner. That is how the world champions are created. You need to be internal focus rather than external focus. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, for example, take the case of PV Sindhu. Now, PV Sindhu had a purpose. She had a purpose in life that I want to win an Olympic medal. She kept on working on it, 10,000 hours of practice. And therefore, she could know that what will happen where the shots are going to come, and she's able to pick it up and rally it behind. So it was the 10,000 grueling hours of practice which propelled her to become more resilient, that even if she failed, and many times she failed, She bounced back and went on to become the champion and therefore win 2 Olympic medals. That is the story. That is what is there. Let's take the example of Abhinav Bindra. Abhinav Bindra in the third Olympics, in the first Olympics, he lost out. In the second Olympics, he was second. He missed out. At the third Olympics, what he said was, if you look his biography, he says, I was detached from the outcome. Because in the second Olympics, he was more worried about winning a medal. But in the third Olympics, he was not worried about winning a medal. He was detached from the outcome, and therefore he was process-centric. The moment he became process-centric, he was able to overcome his failure and go on to win the Olympic medal. Now, let's the case of the third person. I'll talk about Arunima. Arunima Sinha was paralyzed, and she wanted to win. When she met Bichendri Paul, she said, what do you want to become? She said, I want to climb the Mount Everest. Now, Bichendri Paul told her, if you have made it in the mind that you're going to climb the Mount Everest, you will do it. And that's what happened. It's rising every time you fall. And for you, impossible is nothing. That is very, very important. So she could overcome the hurdles in the mind. If you are able to overcome the hurdles in the mind, you are able to defeat. And finally, she went on to climb the Mount Everest. Let's the case of Neeraj Chopra. Everybody has heard he recently won the first athletic guy to win the Olympic gold. Now, what was important for him was he persisted. He had that belief in himself that I can do it. I'll be the first Indian who can do, and that too in a power sport. Nobody ever thought that India can win a power sport. But he not only went on to win the Olympic gold. That is it, because you need to not stop trying and need to never stop believing in yourself. The last I would like to talk about is second last would be Viswanathan Anand. Viswanathan Anand has learned from his failure. Whenever he makes a move and he fails, he knows that this is not the right move, the other move is. So every time he's failing, he's coming out with a new move and finally able to win. So it's very, very important that are we learning from failure? That makes you resilient. Because the moment you accept failure, you are strong enough to take the next step towards winning. Let's take the last case, which is of Bajrang. Bajrang is a wrestler, went on to win the medal. But the biggest thing was his time management, his self-discipline. You need to, what you're doing on the field, equally important what you do off the field. Off the field, are you recovering? Are you doing your physical conditioning? Are you taking the proper diet? Are you taking proper rest? So that is very, very important. What you do off the field prepares you for the next day. So therefore, your time management becomes critical. And my success was all because of time. And I could do my studies, I could do my sports, I could manage and win gold medal in both. So it is possible. The only thing is we need to follow these principles of purpose, detach from the outcome, overcoming the hurdle, persistent, learning from failure, and the self-discipline in time management. Yes, Shiva.
What is your personal success mantra?
See, for me, it's the 3 Ds and the 3 Cs. Courage, conviction, and commitment, discipline, devotion, and dedication, coupled with a very strong willpower. If you have this, I'm sure anybody, any field, anywhere can win.
Fantastic.
And bounce back.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sanjeeva, for being with us here today. And I wish you all the best for the Paris Olympics in 2024, right? And I'll be in touch with you.
I'll come back with a medal. And we'll be again there in this talk.
Yes, cheers to that, for sure. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll take the questions and answer session at the end, Sanjeeva. So over to Preeti now.
Thank you so much, Ulasini and Sanjeeva. This was truly an inspiring and motivating conversation. I couldn't help but frame a bit small question or a query that, I had in my mind. The German philosopher's famous aphorism went like, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And it could be summed up as, low to moderate doses of stress that don't kill you make you more resilient. My question to you, Sanjeeva, is do you agree with this? And when inducing stress, how do you decide what is just right?
Well, I totally agree with this. Stress is important in life because that gets your adrenaline pumping. As sports people, we need to have that a little anxiety in us, So that's very important. But at the same time, it's also important. While we are training, the 10,000 of trainers, when we are training, we should know where the limit is, where I need not to exceed it. I'll give you an example of what happened at the Tokyo Olympics. At the Tokyo Olympics, Atanu and Deepika were expected to win the Olympic medal. When they were practicing in India, their heartbeat was at around 100 and 110. And the maximum they went to around 120, 130. But at the Paris Olympic, they were shooting, Tokyo Olympic, they were shooting at 150 to 160. Now, that is what is beyond your limit. Stress is good. Stress is important. But if stress goes beyond a certain limit, then what happens? You don't perform. So that is what happened with us. So it's good, but you need to know the limit at which you can perform the best.
Thank you. That is so well said, Sanjeeva. And now we will take your question and answers at a later stage towards the end, as Shivdasini mentioned. With this, we now move to a coaching demo that we have stitched in this session. We have a coachee with us over here. To respect the identity and confidentiality of the coachee, we will be addressing her as coachee, and she is free to keep her camera off or on, whatever makes her comfortable. Over to you, Shivdasini. I will bring the coachee onto the main stage, and Sanjeeva, the two of us can wait behind and come back again. I would need Chintan's help to get Anita Aspat on this stage.
So, because we are live and we're waiting for another coach to join in, for the people who are new to coaching and who have registered for the conclave, essentially the difference between a coach, a therapist, a mentor, or a counselor is that the coach never ever gives the solution to the coachee. And that's how the process of coaching is different from all other processes. In all other processes, be it the mentor, the counselor, or the therapist, these people are experts in their respective fields, and they are providing you with a solution, right? A coach and the coaching process is very distinct because we help the coachee discover their own answers. And when a person discovers his own answers, obviously, they take more responsibility for the ownership of the decisions that they have taken. And I personally believe that that's what gives you the results in the coaching process. If any one of you has any questions, you could please unmute yourself and ask, and then we can take it until the coachee joins in. Or you could even put it in the chat box. Another thing that I would like to share with you all, if there are no questions right now, is that every celebrity today, even President Obama, had his own coach. The coach tends to be behind the curtain, and therefore people do not come to know who is the person helping the person take those quantum leaps in their careers or in the activity that they are pursuing. And having a coach enables you to take those decisions and become the best person that you are capable of becoming. So you're exploring all your possibilities, right? And when I started the coaching process around 12 years ago, I started my coaching journey in 2011. And I remember I thought my coach will help me in one or two areas of my life, and my life is going to be completely sorted. But over a period of time, I've realized I couldn't be more wrong about the coaching journey. It's taking a deep dive into yourself and exploring yourself. Great. Anita has joined us.
Yes. Thank you, Anita. Thank you for stepping in. And let's deep dive into the conversation and make up for the lost time. Thank you.
So we just have about 15 minutes, Anita. What would you like to discuss or explore today?
I am deeply aware of how exercise and a good diet and balancing nutrition and all of these things are going to do a world of good for me. And I'm doing a great job with my morning pages and all of the other things that involve self-care. However, I haven't been as disciplined as I need to be in terms of nutrition and the food that I consume. And at the end of the day, what I put into my body is it's something that really counts. So I'm struggling with that. I'm aware of it intellectually, cognitively,
Right.
and yet I struggle with the discipline. So I'm wondering if you could help me think through this.
So, if I were to ask you, what is the goal for our session today? What would you say in probably in a short sentence?
I think the space to explore, why am I not accountable to myself? I'm accountable with everything else. So I don't, I know this kind of work takes time and a lot of reflection.
Right.
But even just the space to look at what is stopping me from being accountable to myself.
Okay. And what you told me is the goal for you for today is the space to explore, why am I not accountable to myself?
Yeah.
And if you were to be accountable to yourself, well, how would you know you were accountable to yourself?
In the outcomes.
That's right. How?
Every time,
What
Michael Phelps's coach once said, you have a cookie in your hand. Progress happens when, what do you do in that moment, right? Do you put it in? Do you put that away? So, yeah.
That's right. So being more discerning in what you put into your body, is that what would be the...
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Now, because you're not achieving your goal as well as you would like, what impact is it having in your life?
In the day-to-day environment, just, not feeling fit, not feeling energetic enough, not having the mental stamina to do the things that in my heart I have the energy to do, but I just don't have the stamina. And in the longer term, I think a shorter shelf life for this body. Yeah.
And what is the number one thing stopping you from achieving your goal?
It's a bit scary to admit. I think the first question that came to my mind was, who cares? So instead of an answer, the question that emerged for me was, who cares what I eat? I mean, I'm astonished that it came up, but that's what came up, right? I can't lie about that.
So who should care about what you eat?
Yeah. I mean, I should. I know I should. How am I so committed to my assignments, my clients, my work, my family, and yet something that is, such an integral part to our well-being? I don't know.
So what is the number one belief you need to have about yourself in order to achieve this goal?
That I'm worth it.
Tell me more.
I think I've spent such a significant amount of my life in caregiving. I've given a lot of my time to others and other things and other people, just not enough to myself. It's probably the first time in my life this is the freest I have ever been in my whole life. I've never had this kind of freedom. I don't know if it's the case of a kid in a candy store gone berserk. Just all the candy to myself, freedom included, and tempering that somewhat, to be able to look at, actually, something so, because of what you asked me, something really powerful that I remembered, and it was Elizabeth Gilbert saying, people talk about self-love a lot, but instead self-love kind of feels a little esoteric and too difficult. Instead, can we say stewardship, friendly stewardship, because women are so good at looking after things. My whole life, I looked after people, and it's now time to look after myself.
Okay.
And I think the connection that I'm seeing in just these few minutes is the connection between or amongst who cares about my self-worth, and how do I look at it with a sense of friendly stewardship, and then see what happens. It's almost like an exercise that I need to do with myself as part of the inner work that I'm doing.
And I honor you for the great processing that you're doing today, Anita. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what daring action could you take to move forward in the process of how can I look after myself?
Ooh, I have goosebumps. I don't know if you can see that. Goosebumps. I just need to be courageous enough to place myself first and my well-being first. I haven't done that. It's almost like I have never known what it is to give myself importance or the care that I deserved and needed, because somebody else always needed attention, time, energy, effort. So I think the most daring thing I should do is I'm actually reminded of Byron Katie, who said, if only you knew how great you were, you would touch your own feet. I'm feeling a bit, just it's very, it's just vulnerable talking about all of this. But I think that's what it is. And it's a very, very powerful question for me. What is the most daring thing I can do? Thank you. I'm just deeply appreciative. This chance encounter. Thank you very much.
And what are you really thinking or feeling in this moment right now, Anita?
I have tears in my eyes, and my heart's pounding a little bit, because there was a nice kind of trigger with that word, right? Because I think courage comes in so many different forms and shapes and versions. And there's life is asking me to show up courageously, and not just show up courageously, but also act courageously, by placing myself at the forefront, placing my physical well-being at the forefront of my overall well-being.
Right.
I think that's a really, really powerful insight, discovery, sort of message that's coming up for me.
All right. So what is your number one strength in your own mind, Anita?
Resilience.
Wow. Okay.
I've been through hell and back. I'm still in one piece. I'm not cynical, not bitter, not angry with the world. I have all the love in my heart to give. So yeah, resilience.
And how can you use resilience to achieve your goals?
Yeah, I think a combination of reminding myself of all the times that I've gotten up, fallen down so many times. I've sort of broken, cracked, and yet I've gotten up and moved forward with no cynicism. Or very, there's always anger is the rite of passage, right? We're all gone through that anger. So I think reflecting on that a little bit, reflecting on that and reminding myself that I'm worth it. I don't know. That's what's coming up for me again and again.
All right. Let's say, you were everybody who wins and who's resilient gets a number 10 on their forehead. And if you were to imagine that number 10 on your forehead, what picture comes to your mind?
I am going to be walking on air. I always go back to the time I used to swim 6 times a day for 2 hours every day. And I know how I felt. So a picture of mine on the website is actually from just after my swim. I'm in the locker room and people said, oh, did you get this done in a studio? And I said, no, this is just oxytocin, right?
Yeah.
Oxytocin and whatever, all the other hormones of a great workout, right? You're glowing. And I have a visceral memory of that. I think I need to connect back to that. And great insights. Thank you.
How can this picture that you have just got in your mind and what it represents be a solution for you to achieve your goal?
I think focus and discipline combined with compassion. A lot of people think compassion is about being tough, but compassion is also about doing it with love and not making it like a fight or a battle. Right? I think sometime earlier today in the session, I said, oh, we must remember to sharpen the saw. And I thought, oh my God, that sounds violent. I'm more a violin with a bow. Right? So how do I, and it sounds terrible when you're a learner, but the same thing can sound so beautiful when used correctly. So I think compassion, focus, discipline.
And because there's a paucity of time, Anita, what could, with these 3 words, focus, discipline, and with compassion, what is 1 or 2 goals that come up for you that you could set for yourself and start by for yourself?
Yeah, I have a schedule every day, and there's time that I set aside for learning every day, and it's really about starting small, because adrenaline isn't going to kill it. It's not going to win the game. It's really consistency. So beginning with 15 minutes every day. And even the eurythmy that I did today, right? I felt like I was on top of the world with Preeti Nair, I think. It was perfect, that movement, getting into that movement. So for me, I think all of those add to consistent practice, even if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes every day.
Okay.
Never give myself permission to not suit up, right? Whatever that means, getting into my, I don't know, yoga pants or walking shoes or whatever that might be. Just consistent practice.
Would it help if you take that decision and decide how you would want to go about it?
Yeah.
What would that look like?
I think I'm looking at honoring that schedule, right? Without saying, oh, but I wanted to do this in the morning. It's not morning now. It's evening. Guess what? There are 24 hours. Surely I can do 15 minutes. And really holding myself accountable to this. And I'm great with visual cues. So, sorry, go ahead.
What would you like to do in those 15 minutes?
I think a combination of whatever, as long as it involves movement.
Okay.
Because I love to dance, and maybe it's dance, and maybe it's yoga, maybe it's walk, whatever. Maybe it's taking a phone call, walking rather than being seated. So I think at the end of it, movement is what is missing, and movement will contribute to a better sense of well-being. And then over a period of time, I can increase the duration. But I really need to do more of it, or start with it. Yeah.
Does that sound complete to you?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for holding this space. Very grateful. Thank you.
And what is your commitment for the insight that you have received today from this conversation?
My commitment is to, start today. I'm so diligent with all my reflections. and I think, making it a fun part of my day rather than, oh my God, one more thing I need to do.
Okay. And what's been your greatest learning, Anita, from our conversation today?
I think that moment of who cares was just frightening for me, to even say that out aloud. Because God knows, I don't know who all are in this session and watching. So it's a little bit scary, right? But more than, I don't care what the world is perceiving of me in this moment. I think what was more terrifying for me was that I thought that. And yet, you created such safety and just stillness for me to be able to process that and come to us, like make sense of all the, things that were going on in my head.
Right.
And really hold the space in, with such safety. So yeah, I would say that's a great takeaway for me.
So thank you for having me as your coach today. And because there's paucity of time, I'll hand over the session to Preeti.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anita, for stepping in.
Of course.
Such a beautiful conversation. Thank you, Shivdasini, for this powerful, laser-focused coaching demo. And Anita, so very appreciate your spontaneity, the vulnerability that you showed, the safety, the psychological safety, if I can say, that you felt being coached by Shivdasini in front of this audience. And this session was a very beautiful stitching of the high energy and inspiration that we got from Sanjeeva to the depth of the coaching demo over here, wherein we saw so many beautiful gems of realization coming up for you. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you. It was a chance encounter, like I said. Thank you.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. We now move on to a few Q&A, and I open the floor. I bring in Sanjeeva as well. And let's move on. If I have to just share my takeaway from what Sanjeeva shared earlier regarding archery and resilience, if I have to tie the two back, the bow and arrow reminds me that, whenever life is dragging you behind or pulling you back, just remember that it is going to launch you into something great. So just focus.
Very
and keep
true.
aiming.
Very
and
true.
That is what resilience is all about. And this is what I picked up from your sharing, Sanjeeva, today in this session. So I would like to take a few question and answers over here. So we have a question from Tarun Kohli, which is Sanjeeva for you. Does resilience and confidence come with wins, or if we learn from failures and use to improve ourselves?
I think so. It comes from failures. Every failure teaches you a way to succeed. And people who don't fail will never realize the value of success. Success comes from failures, and the more failures you do, the more ways you find out to become more resilient. And next time you're much successful.
Right. Very well said. Another one from Sovan. Mr. Sanjeeva, what is your view on adaptability in relation to personal values? What if you have to compromise a personal value?
No, I don't think so. That would be correct. One thing which I've learned working with Tatas is never compromise on the values. Today Tatas is Tatas because they never compromise the value. And that is one thing in the last 35 years of my working with Tatas, I've realized that your value system makes you stand up. Your value system gives you the resilience to perform, and that against all odds. So it's better to stand on your values rather than to compromise your values.
Very well said. Another one from Akshat Kapoor that says, can executive coaches transition to sports performance coaches in individual and team-based sports? If yes, what are the things that they need to be mindful of?
See, I think so. Even any coaching, for instance, it is possible. You can you can definitely take on to sporting coaching. Ultimately, it's all about mind. So if you are able to train the mind, you'll be able to train the mind, whether it's a coachee, a student, a trainer, a sportsman. The philosophy remains the same.
So I'd like to bring in a question.
But there are 4-5 things I would like to. I'd like to keep 4-5 things in mind. One, as a sportsman or as a normal coach, what's important is that you should be able to orchestra, because you need to coordinate with a lot of individuals and team. Therefore, you need to become like an orchestrator. You should be able to scaffold. That means as you build on buildings with scaffolding, you need to build on incremental goals and move ahead, and rather than break the big goals into smaller ones. The other thing is passion, because what passion you have need to rub on your trainee. So it's important that you have the passion in you. And lastly, you should learn from failures. You should be able to accept the failures in your life. Then I'm sure, as a coach, whichever field you chose, whether it's sports or corporate or anywhere else, you'll be able to succeed.
Great. So this is exactly what I wanted to ask you, and you've already answered that. How does a coach empower his coaches? Beautiful. One question that comes up is, how does one learn to be okay with making mistakes, big or small?
See, I think so. The biggest thing is acceptance. The day you are able to accept your failure, that is the day you start rising. It's important to accept failure, that nobody's perfect. Everybody has certain things wrong. So what is important to accepting that and then overcoming that. So that is very important.
Great. And any mantra that I can say, how does one accept it? Well, we say that we should accept, but it's not that simple.
There are two things very important. Nike says just do it. Adidas says nothing is impossible. So what is important is just do it. The more you analysis leads to paralysis. What is important is you should be confident. You should have that belief in yourself, the courage, as I talked about the 3 C's and 3 D's. It's important. If you have the belief in yourself, you can overcome any situation and be a winner.
Great. So I'm picking up that, have belief in yourself. Do not analyze too much. Have the courage to just do it. Then nothing is impossible.
Sure.
Right.
Perfect.
Right. Shivdasini, coming to the coaching demo that we had, could you share your experience about bringing this? You actually put boundaries to the coachee's thoughts and brought it into a funnelize in such a way that the coachee got deeper realizations. So we were all privy to your masterful coaching with such powerful questions coming in that just moved the coachee step by step forward. Could you share something about it?
So what I have learned and practiced over a period of time, Preeti, is you have to shuffle between the left brain and the right brain. So you ask very rational and technical and logical questions to the left brain, and then you ask the client to tap into their creativity and innovation by going into the right brain. And when you shuffle between right brain and left brain questions, that magic happens. And that's something that I'm still trying to master. Only left brain coaching or only right brain coaching, I believe, does not deliver the same as does going into both sides of the brain and tapping the resources that are available within the client.
Right. So it's dancing between the left and the right brain and making the client dance with you. And that brings out a beautiful symphony and piece.
Yes, and not only the left and the right brain, also the subconscious, conscious, and the superconscious. Aligning all the three too. I think that's where the magic lies in coaching.
Great. So this engaging conversation that we had, two different flavors with Sanjeeva and with you, and 60 minutes have just flown by. I really thank both of you for coming over and making the audience have the worth their while. And thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you around in another session.